The quiet world, the Kethrin Empire, had conquered 47 star systems in the past century. Their expansion protocol was refined to mathematical precision. Scout the target world, analyze defensive capabilities, deploy overwhelming force, establish. Control. Simple, effective. Profitable. When the long-range sensors first detected the blue-green world in the outer spiral arm, it barely registered as a strategic priority. The planet showed signs of industrial development, but nothing impressive. Radio chatter indicated a fractured civilization with dozens of competing nations. Their most advanced vessels barely scratched the edge of their own solar system. Commander Zixtal reviewed the preliminary reports from his command ship, the Dominator, while it held position just beyond the planet's detection range. The four-armed Kethrin officer had overseen 12 successful conquests. This looked like it might be his easiest yet. Scout Velinara, present your findings, Zixtal commanded, his translator device rendering his clicking speech into standard galactic. Younger Kethrin stepped forward, her carapace still showing the green tint of inexperience. Commander, the planet appears to be called Earth by its inhabitants. Population approximately 8 billion. They have achieved basic nuclear technology and primitive spaceflight, but their military capabilities are curious. Curious how? They seem to have very few dedicated military installations relative to their population. Most of their defensive systems appear to be integrated into civilian infrastructure. Their global communication network is remarkably robust, but it carries mostly entertainment and commercial data. Zixtal's mandibles clicked in amusement. Entertainment and commerce. How delightfully primitive. Do they show any signs of unified planetary government? None, sir. They appear to be divided into nearly 200 separate political entities, many of which seem to be in active disagreement with each other. Perfect. Divided enemies are conquered enemies. What of their space-based defenses? Minimal, sir. A few orbital installations they call space stations, but they appear to be primarily for research and communication. No weapons platforms detected. Zixtal settled back into his command chair, already composing his conquest report for the Empire. Velinara, prepare the standard occupation protocol. 3 battle groups should be sufficient. We'll establish control over their major population centers first, then systematically absorb their resources. Sir, Velinara hesitated. There was one unusual reading in my scans. Speak. The planet shows extremely high levels of electromagnetic activity, not from their technology, but from biological sources. Almost as if the entire biosphere is somehow connected. Zixtal waved a dismissive claw. Probably just their primitive broadcast networks. Don't overthink it, Scout. This is a simple operation. On Earth, Dr. Sarah Chun was tending to her vertical farm in Singapore when her tablet chimed with an emergency alert. The message was brief, coded, and terrifying. Sky visitors, not friendly. Phase 1 active. Sarah's hands trembled as she read the message. She had hoped this day would never come, but she had prepared for it, along with millions of others worldwide. The quiet network had been watching the skies for decades. Ever since the first credible extraterrestrial contact had been quietly established in the 2040s. She quickly sent a response through the encrypted Agricultural Research Channel. Garden ready, seeds planted, weather looking stormy. Across the globe, similar messages flowed through channels that appeared mundane to outside observers. A restaurant supply chain network in Mexico City, a bird-watching forum in Stockholm, a urban gardening blog in Lagos, a fishing report system in Alaska. The quiet network had learned from humanity's own history. The most successful resistance movements had always been those that looked like something else entirely. Marcus Thompson was debugging traffic management software in Detroit when his computer screen flickered. The code he had been working on for the city's transportation grid was replaced by a simple message. The neighbors are coming over uninvited. Time to lock the doors. Marcus pushed back from his desk and walked to his window. The city looked normal. People walked the streets. Cars moved through intersections. Everything appeared peaceful. But Marcus knew that peaceful was exactly what they needed to appear. He opened his legitimate email and sent a message to his hiking group. Weather's changing. Time to activate the emergency shelter protocol. Within minutes, similar messages flowed through hobby networks across the continent. Ham radio operators began testing their equipment. Makerspaces started educational projects with their 3D printers. Community gardens activated their pest control systems. Elena Vasquez received her alert while organizing medical supplies at a community health center in Snow Paulo. The message came through the International Nursing Network. Disguised as a routine vaccination schedule update, Elena had been a field medic during the resource wars of the 2050s. She knew what was coming would be unlike anything humanity had faced before. But she also knew that humans had always been at their most dangerous when they looked most vulnerable. She immediately began implementing protocols that had been quietly refined over decades. The Community Health Network would become the backbone of civilian coordination. Every neighborhood clinic, every volunteer first aid station, every community garden with its own medical kit would become a node in a vast organic command structure. Catherine Invasion Fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. 3 massive battle groups, each containing enough firepower to glass a continent. They began their approach with textbook precision, broadcasting surrender demands on all frequencies. The response they received was not what they expected. Unknown vessels, this is Earth traffic control. You are entering restricted airspace without proper clearance. Please state your business and submit to inspection. Commander Zixtal stared at the communication display in disbelief. They want us to submit to inspection? Sir, one of his officers reported, they appear to be treating our battle fleet as if it were a commercial cargo shipment. Ignore them. Begin orbital bombardment of their major military installations. Sir, we're having difficulty identifying major military installations. Most of their defense infrastructure appears to be distributed throughout civilian areas. Zixtal's frustration grew. Then target their government centers. Cut off their leadership. Sir, they appear to have hundreds of government centers. Their political structure is remarkably decentralized out as the Catherine fleet moved into Earth's orbit. Scout Velinara monitored the planet's communication networks. What she saw made her increasingly uneasy. The planet's electromagnetic activity was spiking, but not in panic. The signals were becoming more organized, more coordinated. Commander, she reported, the planet's communication patterns are changing. They're not showing signs of fear or chaos. They single quotes . Organizing. Organizing for what? They have no unified military command. Sir, I'm not sure they need one. The first Catherine dropships entered Earth's atmosphere over what appeared to be major agricultural region in the American Midwest. The landing was unopposed. The area looked peaceful, almost pastoral. Exactly the kind of soft target the Catherines preferred for establishing initial beachheads. As the first troops deployed, they were met by a small group of humans standing in a wheat field. The humans were not armed with anything that registered as dangerous on Catherine's sensors. They were holding farming tools and what appeared to be communication devices. The lead Catherine officer, Lieutenant Kextan, activated his translator and addressed the humans. By order of the Catherine Empire, you are now under our protection. Surrender your weapons and report for processing. One of the humans, an elderly woman in overalls, stepped forward. Son, the only thing we're surrendering is our patience. You might want to leave while you still can. Lieutenant Kextan's mandibles clicked in amusement. You appear to misunderstand your situation. We are equipped with advanced weaponry. You are holding farming equipment. The elderly woman smiled. You're right. We are holding farming equipment. She raised what looked like a simple handheld device. This here's a crop sprayer. Been modified for a different kind of pest control. Before the Kethrans could react, the sky filled with a fine mist. Their environmental suits immediately began registering chemical alerts. The mist wasn't toxic to humans, but it contained compounds that interfered with Kethran respiratory systems. As the alien troops began to struggle with breathing difficulties, the wheat field around them came alive. What had appeared to be a simple agricultural area revealed itself as an elaborate defensive position. Hidden speakers played sounds that disrupted Kethran hearing. Camouflaged projectors created disorienting light patterns. But the most unsettling part was the humans. Themselves, they didn't retreat. They didn't panic. They worked with the calm efficiency of people who had planned for this moment for decades. Lieutenant Kextan managed to activate his emergency beacon before losing consciousness. His last thought was confusion about how farming equipment could be so effective against advanced military technology. Similar scenes played out across the globe. Kethran forces landing in urban areas found themselves facing not armies, but neighborhoods. Communities that had quietly prepared for this day using resources that looked completely innocent. The awakening storm. The second day of the invasion began with Commander Zixtel staring at casualty reports that made no sense. His forces had suffered minimal actual casualties, but over 60% of his troops were listed as combat ineffective. They weren't wounded. They weren't dead. They were scared. Explain this, he demanded, thrusting the report at his medical officer. Sir, the troops are experiencing what can only be described as systematic psychological warfare. The humans aren't just fighting our forces. They're undermining our entire conceptual framework of what warfare should be. Speak plainly. Sir, our soldiers are trained to fight armies, not communities. Yesterday, Strike Team 7 was immobilized by a group of human children who surrounded them with what appeared to be a school science project. It was actually a sophisticated sonic weapon disguised as a music performance. Zixtel's mandibles clicked in frustration. How does a school science project become a sonic weapon? That's what's terrifying our troops, sir. Everything on this planet can become a weapon. Every human can become a soldier. But they don't look like soldiers. They look like ... people. On Earth, a quiet network had evolved into something unprecedented in human history. Without central command, without traditional military hierarchy, 8 billion people had become a single organism dedicated to planetary defense. Dr. Sarachun stood in her vertical farm, now revealed as a command center coordinating agricultural defense networks across Southeast Asia. Her crops had been genetically modified, not just for food production, but for chemical warfare. Every plant in her facility could produce compounds that were harmless to humans, but devastating to Kethron biology. Status report, she spoke into her headset, connected to agricultural research stations worldwide. Buenos Aires reporting successful. Deployment of pheromone defense systems. Kethran forces are experiencing severe disorientation. Nairobi confirms activation of locust protocols. Our insect populations are targeting Kethran equipment with remarkable efficiency. Mumbai reports that our fungal networks are successfully degrading alien materials. Their equipment is literally being eaten by our planet. Sarah smiled grimly. The Kethrans had made a fundamental error. They had assumed that a peaceful planet would be a weak planet. They had never considered that a planet's entire ecosystem might be mobilized for war. Marcus Thompson's traffic management system had become the coordination hub for North American resistance. Every smart device, every sensor, every automated system in the continent's infrastructure was now part of a massive tactical network. Detroit control to all nodes. He broadcast through channels that appeared to be routine maintenance communications. Pattern recognition is showing optimal results. The visitors are having trouble adapting to our local customs. The local customs Marcus referred to were psychological warfare tactics refined over decades of human conflict. But applied to alien psychology, they were devastatingly effective. Street lights that strobed in patterns that induced nausea in Catherine visual systems. Traffic signals that created navigation confusion for alien forces. Emergency broadcast systems that played sounds specifically designed to trigger fear responses. In the Catherine nervous system. But the most effective weapon was something the Catherines had never encountered. Human creativity deployed at scale. Elena Vasquez coordinated medical networks that had become the backbone of civilian resistance. Every hospital, every clinic, every first aid station was now a node in a vast intelligence network that tracked alien movements and coordinated responses. Medical network, this is Snow Palo Central, she broadcast. Patient reports are showing excellent recovery rates. The visitors are responding very poorly to our treatment protocols. The treatment protocols Elena referred to were non-lethal but highly effective methods of incapacitating Catherine forces. Humans had learned Catherine biology from decades of quiet observation. They knew exactly how to overwhelm alien sensory systems without causing permanent harm. But more importantly, they knew how to make the aliens afraid. Scout Velanara monitored Earth's communication networks with growing alarm. The planet's electromagnetic activity had increased exponentially, but it wasn't chaotic. It was organized, coordinated, purposeful. Commander, she reported, I'm detecting what appears to be a global consciousness emerging from the planet's communication networks. Impossible. Planets don't have consciousness. Sir, I'm not sure this planet knows that. The evidence was overwhelming. Earth's communication networks were processing information at a rate that surpassed the most advanced AI systems in the galaxy. But it wasn't artificial intelligence. It was collective intelligence. 8 billion humans thinking together, coordinating together, acting together. The Catherine invasion force found itself facing an enemy that evolved in real time. Every tactic they deployed was immediately countered by new human strategies. Every position they took was surrounded by defenders who seemed to materialize from nowhere. But the most unsettling aspect was the humans' attitude. They weren't angry. They weren't afraid. They were polite, apologetic even. Sorry about the inconvenience, one human had said to Lieutenant Kekstan, as his squad was systematically neutralized by what appeared to be a neighborhood watch group. We know you're probably just doing your job, but you really shouldn't have come here uninvited. The psychological impact was devastating. Catherine military doctrine was based on fear, intimidation, and overwhelming force. But Earth's defenders weren't responding with fear. They were responding with disappointment, as if the Catherines were misbehaving children who needed to be gently corrected. On the third day, Commander Zixtel made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. He ordered orbital bombardment of Earth's major cities. The response was immediate and terrifying. Earth's atmospheric manipulation systems, disguised as weather research networks, created electromagnetic storms that grounded Kethron aircraft. Satellite networks that had appeared to be commercial communication systems revealed themselves as sophisticated defense platforms. But the most shocking response came from space itself. What had appeared to be harmless space debris began moving. With purpose. Thousands of small objects, previously dismissed as satellites and space junk, revealed themselves as a defensive network that had been quietly assembled over decades. The Catherine fleet found itself surrounded by a swarm of small, agile craft that struck with precision and disappeared before retaliation was possible. Earth's space defenses weren't massive and intimidating. They were small, numerous, and intelligent. Like everything else about Earth, they were underestimated until it was too late. Commander Zixtal watched in horror as his supposedly overwhelming force was systematically dismantled by an enemy that refused to fight like an enemy. Earth's defenders were treating the invasion like a natural disaster that needed to be managed rather than a military conflict that needed to be won. "Sir," Scout Velinara reported, "we're receiving a communication from the planet. It's being broadcast on all frequencies simultaneously. Put it through." The message that played across every screen in the Kethran fleet was simple, clear, and terrifying in its implications. "Attention, visitors. We understand you may have made an error in navigation. Earth is not available for conquest. We are not a military target. We are a community, and our community has decided that you are not welcome. You have 48 hours to leave our system. After that, we will consider your presence a clear and present danger to our families, and we will respond accordingly." The message was delivered in a calm, professional tone by a human who looked like she might be a schoolteacher, but the implications were clear. Earth wasn't threatening military action. It was threatening community action. "Sir," Velinara whispered, "I'm detecting massive energy buildups across the planet. Whatever they're preparing, it's unlike anything in our databases." Commander Zixtal stared at the tactical display showing his forces scattered across Earth's surface. Each group was surrounded, outnumbered, and outmaneuvered by defenders who appeared to be ordinary civilians until they demonstrated capabilities that surpassed elite military units. "Prepare for immediate evacuation," he ordered. "All forces return to orbit immediately." "Sir, what about our conquest objectives?" "There are no conquest objectives. This isn't a conquest. This is a disaster." As the Kethran forces retreated, Earth's response was characteristically human. The same communities that had systematically dismantled the invasion force began organizing disaster relief for the retreating aliens. Medical stations that had been manufacturing biological weapons hours earlier began producing supplies for Kethran troops suffering from Earth's atmospheric conditions. The psychological impact was devastating. The Kethrans had come to conquer Earth. Earth had responded by treating them like lost tourists who needed help finding their way home. Scout Velinara submitted her final report as the fleet limped away from Earth's solar system. Recommendation: classify Earth as a restricted system. Threat level: absolute. Reason: the planet appears to be inhabited by a species that has weaponized. Compassion: the Kethran Empire, faced with the first military defeat in its history, quietly removed Earth from all expansion plans. The official report classified the planet as Unionhub**,